Hey everybody, this is Suicide Boys with I No Longer Fear the Razor Guarding My Heel. This is Suicide Boys. Let's just play it.
I'll tell you a secret. Something they don't teach you in your temple. The gods envy us. They envy us because we're mortal. Because any moment might be our last. Everything's more beautiful because we're done.
That was a really cool intro.
That was a cool intro.
And it's a very interesting way to think. It's always a cool way to think of someone being on the top being jealous of those who are below them. There's an anime all about, it's called One Punch Man, and it was like really, the first season was amazing. After that, you can just ignore it, if I'm being honest. But it's about someone who's so strong that one punch he can defeat anything. But what it's really about is his struggles with trying to find meaning and purpose after getting to that level of strength. And he just doesn't know what to do. It's really quite good.
Can I ever get the moment in myself? Each moment the past is fleeting. I try and attract the escape my your life at this point. I should call me who bleed. And always the top of me bleeding. I saw over what I'm retreating. Back into the hole that I try to climb out of it. Always the touch of the feet. I'm addicted to sex, addicted to drugs. Really my dad, but make me feel love. I don't care what you're thinking. I don't give a fuck. I'm still out there shining as bright as the sun. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how tough. Don't disobey when I say give me the gun. If I don't let my demons out to breathe, I'll end up with some walls of pair of fuck waves. Come and visit me from time to time. Two walking bitches I was ever with, yet you're still on my mind.
This is really interesting.
Yeah. It's like he can't decide if he's ashamed or proud of the way he's living his life, is kind of the feel I've gotten. Because he starts out with the lines where it's like, I've got these problems, I'm addicted to sex, I'm addicted to drugs.
I do whatever I need to feel loved.
And then he just starts diving in, well, I'm happy with it. It's like sour grapes, but backwards. Like, this may be what's happening to me, but I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I think that a lot of people go through that cycle.
Yeah.
Of like, well, I'm fine with this. It's like, oh, I want to change my life. No, I'm fine with this. And it's mixed. And sometimes, like, when they're intoxicated, they're more like, well, I want to change my life. And sometimes when they're intoxicated, they're like, no, I want to stay here.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a very normal human thing to feel this mix of, like, wanting to change and being not just content where you're at, but also feeling, what's the word I'm looking for? Resigned, but also that can lead to a sense of just like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm proud of this. This is fine. Like, I make it work, and I work it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The imagery that it uses here with all of the statues and stuff, which are in these different shapes, show different emotions. It's poignant, you know, in the sense of like, that's what statues do, is they help express feeling, right? Like when we went to Vigeland Park in Norway.
Yeah.
There's this statue park there that just like touches your soul. And that's not just there. I mean, like anywhere you go where you can see these well-crafted statues that speak with their actions, with their body language. And it just goes to show like how powerful body language is. I mean, looking at this one that we're paused on right now, you know, is this grief, this crying, right? And when you put that onto what he's talking about, you can sense more of that confusion and pain along with this narrative that he's sharing.
Yeah. But
what's really interesting to me is the different type of vocal technique that's happening here. Like at first it was just like very rap. Okay, but I'm going to back up even more, because starting with an intro like they had, like a spoken word intro, that's very common in power metal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Christopher Lee, the guy who played Saruman on The Lord of the Rings, or Count Dooku on the Star Wars prequels, he actually did a lot of voiceover work for metal bands. He was super into like heavy metal and power metal and stuff like that. And he did voiceover work and stuff like that for them, doing these types of spoken word intros. And it's very common, but I haven't really seen this type of spoken word intro in a rap song. But if you notice that as he was going through, at a certain point, he added a bunch of distortion to his voice, which, not electronic distortion, it was actual vocal distortion, kind of like almost like a screaming effect, right? Which is not super common in what I think this genre is, but this feels like it's genre fluid, if you will. You know, like it can mix a little bit between things, and I find that interesting in a song. You know, when something is just the same over and over again, it's cool if you love that genre, but when you're able to really cross that into a couple different things, it gives it a vitality that otherwise wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And I think that this is doing that.
Think I've been going insane. Popping and smoking and drinking this high. Been coping and dealing with pain. Stolen along with my mom. Yeah, I just be hoping to buy another day working and wasting away the exact thing that I wanna buy. That's time. Yeah, I'm in that double up, falling the fuck about cooking up my fellow low. Till they strong enough for me, like grabbing along. Cause my daddy just hit a new low. Everyday bad news, everyday cash news. Fuck when I did this one every day. They fun and poetic shit. Got the cold metal stick up to my brain. You didn't know it before me. Yeah. I just wanna run away, but all I ever do is run in place. The tears I cried, they could've iced my chain. And on the best days I can feel my face.
If that doesn't sum up the song right there and what the intent is, I don't know what does. That line, I just want to run away, but all I do is run in place. That is a beautiful lyric. That is so clear as to what a lot of people feel and what this song is portraying. I'm really impressed with that lyric right there. That was solid. Well,
Well, it was especially easy to understand after he had been talking about all I'm doing is working double shifts, wasting what I'm trying to buy is time.
Right.
Talking about, well, I'm just trying to make a relationship with my mom, but I'm doing this that's also destroying me in the process. Wondering, is this worth it? Every day there's something new bad happening, but I'm still out here working, but I'm just running in place. And it really captured, that line captured everything that had been said previously and just summed it all up. It was really a good way to end that thought series.
And there are a lot of songs, especially rap songs, that talk about and glorify, they talk about it in a good way, that's glorifying, drugs and violence and sexual promiscuity and things like that, which to especially kids who aren't growing up with all their parents or who are just young kids susceptible to different ideas and stuff and listening to music, I think it has a negative impact on our culture and society, right? Teaches kids like the opposite of good morals, right? Whereas here, he's talking about those same types of things, but with, in honesty, it's not a glorifying. It's like,
it's not saying, oh,
it's not
I'm
like,
having so much fun doing this. It's like when you come down and realize I did that, and that is not going to play out well for me from here on out. It's
like my best day. On my best days, I can't even feel my face.
Yeah, it's like a shout out, or very similar to Homer Simpson, like drinking a bottle of mayonnaise. He's like, oh man, this is not going to feel good tomorrow. Oh, that's future Homer's problem.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
glad I'm not that guy.
Right.
And he just drinks it, right? It's like that. I'm enjoying it right now. Oh, it's going to suck tomorrow, but that's future me's problem.
I really appreciate, I don't want to say I like this. No, I really appreciate the perspective that's brought to this situation. That it's not like, yeah, drugs and promiscuity. It's like, look, I'm barely getting by. I'm trying to earn time, but I'm blowing all my time trying to do that. Every time I get money, it's gone, and I'm like, even my relationship with my mom is, doing lines, right? Mm-hmm. And these things aren't like things to aspire to, right?
Yeah.
These are things to get help for, and I appreciate that it's coming.
The worst part about hell is not the flames, it's the hopelessness. And I think that is the part of hell that a person in depression really tastes. The hopelessness. The hopelessness, the terror. hopelessness that comes over it. Everything is black.
You did good, sir.
That was another very interesting bridge, and then the song feels like it's about to completely change. The beat has completely morphed, and it feels much more upbeat than it was in the last verse.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I thought that was a very interesting quote they took in there, that hell, the worst part about hell is not the flames, it's the hopelessness. Mm-hmm. And they've done studies with rats where they'll put them in water and wait until the rat's about to drown, and then pull the rat out. And it only takes like 15 minutes before the rat just gives up. And then they pull the rat out and save it. And they put the rat back in, and it will swim for hours before it drowns because it's not hopeless. It thinks it's going to get pulled out. If it just keeps its head up, it'll get pulled out.
Just keep swimming.
So the lack of hope is what caused the rat to give up so early in the first place. But once it had hope, it was able to continue going on. So I thought that was very poignant. Like, hopelessness is the real hell. It's not the flames. It's not necessarily the suffering. It's the lack of hope.
I never got enough. Shark attacking album every summer like a mighty nut. Great gorilla, I'm gripping my whole damn nuts. How can I trust when my own love be acting sus? I got feelings I can never feel. Keeping a blade up under my tongue just so I can guard my heel. Constantly eating feels like I never skip a meal. The most they wanna chill, but I just give them Visceral.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
All these missed calls, text left on red. When I do answer the phone, it's usually who is this again? I can see it in their eyes that they see me as a check, as a threat. Fucking hating on me, waiting on me to miss a fucking step. Baby, love to catch me slipping, yeah, that's why I learned to fly. Always trying to touch the sun before I fall to my demise. Bro, just got it, I'm only buzzing cause of the clouds. But I gained 1 million listeners on Spotify overnight.
So, there's a lot of really good stuff here. In the beginning, he says, like, I found solace or comfort in my larynx.
My larynx, yeah.
Yeah, which is the voice box, right? That's where our voice comes from. So, whether that means music or being able to speak what he needs to speak, right? A lot of times that's just a problem. You know, we pull on all these things because we don't have a voice. We don't feel like we can speak what we need to speak. And there's a lot of power in that. But one of the great references that he has in here is the reference to Icarus, which is a Greek myth where he talks about flying too close to the sun before falling to his demise. The lyrics here are fantastic.
There's a lot of Greek shout-outs. Like,
Yeah.
they have the Achilles as well as
Right.
heavily referenced.
Well, that's in the title, right?
Yeah.
Like Guarding My Heel. I'm actually really... There is a lot of artistry in this song, both lyrically, mostly lyrically. But all the different things that are put on top of this, it's really good, you know? But I really like that line, you know, they're waiting for me to trip up, and that's why I learned to fly.
Yeah.
But then he follows that up with, I fly too close to the sun before my demise.
Yeah.
You know, talking about like the
The Icarus, the melting wax wings.
right, the fragility of hubris, right? What happens to us when we're too bold, right? Fall toward him. Anyway, a lot of really good stuff here. I'm very impressed. I am honestly very impressed with this.
did good, sir.
I'm going to pause for a second and just say how much I appreciate the visuals that they put into it. This says it's a lyric video, but you can see how obvious it is, the care put into the visuals that are not necessarily directly portraying the message, but supporting the message that is trying to be delivered in deliberate ways. There was a lot of effort put into these scenes. The whole time there have been scenes of kind of the paint going through water and just kind of spreading, and that felt the whole time like it was just kind of an add-in, kind of to fill space, until that scene where all of a sudden it starts fading everything to black. It starts taking over, and you can feel the darkness really fading in with that visual. And it pulled what felt like just filler back in. It was very well done. There's a lot of effort put in these visuals.
And did you also notice the instrumental bridge, right? The instrumental bridge there, we're about 3/4 through the song. I don't know a lot of rap songs that just have a big chunk of no lyrics.
Yeah.
And that gives you some time to just let it sink in, especially when you take these images, right? And you let all of that just sink in without any extra too much stimulus.
Yeah.
This is cool.
I find it funny that they're putting very poignant lyrics
That aren't
actually in the song on the screen.
right.
And that was a very poignant lyric where when you go through trauma, no one's going to say trauma is good for you to go through, but it is very cathartic after trauma to find the silver lining in it. And that one was, I find my trauma illuminating. And
Trauma is illuminating, and I find myself glowing like the sun.
there it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it word for word.
Which, I don't know if that means, like, yeah, I'm nuclear with how much, like, trauma I've got, or if it's, like, you know, because of my hardship, I've also been able to climb and overcome.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of, maybe some ambiguity and some dual meaning in there, and maybe if I watch it today, I might feel one thing, and if I watch it tomorrow, I might feel another. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about the whole video in general? I just want everyone's impressions on this because it's so interesting, and it's not, we don't get a lot of raw rap that discusses this kind of like trauma element and the effects of trauma, like this, it's like addiction and all these issues in such a way as this.
Yeah.
And I'm really pleased by it, to
Yeah.
be totally honest with you.
I'm thoroughly shocked. I wasn't expecting this to be a video that we'd really watch and have a solid reaction to, but this is maybe not visually like, whoa, this is amazing,
So cool.
but it's very mentally stimulating in a way I was not expecting. I'm very pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
I think one thing about that trauma is illuminating and I'm shining like the sun line is that's one of the messages of the story of Christ in the Bible is in order to rise to the highest highs, he had to voluntarily go to the lowest lows. And that doesn't mean that you have to go into drugs and sex and all these issues like he's talking about. What it means is when you find yourself in the lowest lows of life, those can be your springboard to the highest highs you'll achieve in life. But you have to fight through it and learn from it correctly in order for that to happen.
Understand and learn from it.
Yeah.
You know, we do actually play a lot of songs that we don't publish because we'll put some songs on that are trending, you know, and we'll watch it, but it's just people being like, yeah, drugs are super cool, and I just bang every chick I can find because I'm the coolest cat in the world, and drugs, yay. And we're like, that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you. That doesn't help the world. That doesn't help us. So that's why we don't put that stuff out. Anyway, you're welcome.
Lately I've been feeling like I don't know who the fuck I am. Trying to figure out where the stage is and I begin to the bitter end. I proceed with a hollow heart, cut my wounds and call it off. Watch me as I come apart. And they wondering which word I play. I say what I want and what you can't afford to say. Unless I'm Molly Gray, but just I gotta say, I made the gang and I made the way and I made the wave and this shit stay. Yeah, faking the smile, I'm fixing, I'm going going up on my head, need depression. My girl is up early and bitching and stressing about how I'm here, but I'm lacking in presence. I tell her I love you, but it's lacking essence. And now I remember just who I am. So give me a pill, this one for the win, and I'm going again.
Wow, that was a powerful little sequence right there.
Yeah.
I don't like pausing it in the middle of his commentary there, but that was a powerful sequence.
So, okay, let's break this down a little bit because this was a lot in one spot. Talking about the line where he says, I don't know where the stage ends and I begin. That is something that we've talked about actually a lot on this, because a lot of artists, not a lot, but a few artists have really started sharing about that.
Yeah, BTS has a great song
BTS,
about it.
Ren talks about that.
And what's the most recent? The one from Barbie.
The one that Billie Eilish did.
Yeah, Billie Eilish.
Who Am I? Or something.
Yeah, it was like Billie Eilish, Who Am I? But
something like that. It's not exactly right.
But the thing about that song is one of the commenters were telling us she started writing that song for Barbie and realized as she's writing it that, oh, this is something that I'm actually struggling with. And that was very interesting, how people are starting to realize what a hard time it is to differentiate the person who you are, say, on stage or in front of the camera, from the person you are behind the camera, and trying to kind of not separate out those two selves, but trying to incorporate those two selves in a healthy way. It's not as easy to do as people might believe.
And it's not just for people who are, say, like stage performers, right? So like the concept of like the stage versus like my normal self, this also applies with things like social media or even going out into public. You know, we put on these smiles, we put on these masks, we put on these faces, and we have our nice little voice, and we're like, oh, that's so great. And then we go home and we're like, was that really me? Was I being fake? Like, what is the real me like? You know, am I as cool as people think I am? Am I as lame as they think I am? And it's this struggle of identification, like learning who we are, building who we are, understanding who we are is a lifelong endeavor. And for a lot of people, it's very, very challenging. And that's okay, because we're changing over time too. And we're learning and we're examining and we're making changes on purpose, and sometimes changes are made to us, and all these different things. And the way that he like puts that all together here, and then talks about how the effects of trauma start to affect his family and his relationships, is so key. So
but I think it's not just trauma too. Like, it's trauma, but like tying it back into the very next set of lines is when a lot of times if you're out and putting on that mask and trying to be the best version of yourself when you're
cool
out
guy.
and about,
Yeah.
and then you go home and you don't have anything left to give to your family, who are the most important people in your life, right? The line we're staring at right now, I tell her I love you, but it's lacking essence. That's something you end up with where you've given it all.
Right.
And then you get home and you don't have any more to give to the people who matter most, and it's a struggle.
Yeah, or you just don't feel like you're connected with yourself.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have something to give, but it's just not there. You know, like you need something, but you can't get it. You want to give something, but you can't give it. And it's this struggle of figuring out where you stand with you, and that makes it hard to figure out where you stand with everybody else. And taking, whether it's, like you said, whether we're talking about trauma or whether we're talking about identity or whether we're talking about just the struggles of life or putting on a face or whatever it is, that can leak into those, like you said, most important relationships that we have, to where those things that we care most about are the things that tend to fall apart. And that's where we tend to be most honest. And so that's where a lot of the abrasive behaviors and feelings come out, because it's like, okay, I'm home now, I'm with my girl now, but now I'm really screwing up. You know, you think like it's all gonna be okay, but then you let it all out, and she's stressed, and everyone, and it has an effect on everybody. And it's not like, oh, dude, the best plan for you is to get rid of yourself. You know, a lot of people think that, like, oh, well, I may as well just, it would be better if I wasn't here. That's not the best plan. The best plan is to take some time and to understand what's going on with yourself and what's going on with your family and what's going on. And the more time you can take to reflect and understand, the better situation you're going to be in. He talks about, like, wow, as soon as I realize, like, who I really am, right? Like, I'm not this cool face that everybody sees and pays money for. As soon as I realized who I really am, I popped a pill to forget.
Yeah.
And this is very real. So my wife is actually a marriage and family therapist, and this is a very real thing. Like all of these things that he's talking about, and this isn't just for like high-end artists who, you know, make millions of dollars and stuff. These are struggles that people go through, that you might be going through, you know, and seeing it from all these different angles and with this imagery it reminds us that sometimes we do need to step back and just take some time to understand.
And now I remember just who I am. You give me a place from further away, and I'm going again. Is isolation. I wanna be left alone, and I see how long I'll hold until I end up fighting off temptations to self-annihilation. Holding myself out just by all of this emotional blocking. I give up and stop it now, it's all coming out. They got what kind of vomit, I wish I could get it out. Take away my stomach, fucking rip it all apart. The hurricane, you got me up there, you still my own. Meant to be alone.
They did a very good job portraying the messages and emotions they wanted to in that song, especially because when we would pause it and we would make a commentary, we would hit play, and then they would basically say what we had just been getting at much more briefly.
Right, and starkly.
Yeah.
Just very clearly. I think they nailed this one. I was very surprised by this. Very surprised. All the elements were very well put together. The imagery was both abstract but relevant enough to the story that it was able to give you it was able to bring you in emotionally. It was able to like give you a visceral feel into the story that you get from not having not just the lyrics. And the way that it had different things like the telephone things and the quotations from the recordings and different things like that, that just added so many elements to it that gave this song so much body and so much impact. And I gotta say, I'm very, very impressed with this group. I've never heard any of their stuff before, and they're saying this is a lyric video. I mean, this is 10 steps above any lyric video I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, usually a lyric video is like an image with lyrics over it,
yeah,
or like a gradient background with lyrics over it. No, there was a lot of deliberation put into every image they decided to add in, how many times they decided to add it in, with what words they decided to add it in. It was very, very well thought through. Yeah. Hats off to you, Suicide Boys. I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, very impressed. Very impressed. Anyway, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, we do appreciate when you do subscribe. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps have more people see it, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Real quick, if you know of more songs from this vein that you think we'll like, that are very thoughtful like this, let us know in the comments, because we don't know where to find them. We love to find songs like this, so let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we were lucky to stumble on this one.
We were.
This wasn't a recommendation. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time.